Hey kids, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have a really nice Les Paul Epiphone by Gibson on the bench today. I think it's an older model, an older version, and they're usually a little bit better quality. Older, I mean, you know, not recent years, probably 20-something years old. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but we're going to learn together. Concerns on this particular instrument are he's had it set up before, but by two different techs, and they both told him, oh, you might need some fret work. Fret work. I don't know what that means, but let's get to work. We're going to figure it out together. Pretty nice instrument, a little dirty, a little grungy. Off camera, I started to check a few things. The nut is not set correctly, and when I took off the truss rod cover that says Gibson on it, that's why I say Epiphone by Gibson. Some of them say that, some of them don't. There was rubber cement, and I can see a whole bunch of goopy rubber cement right here where the truss rod cover sat on there, and in fact it pulled off like a piece of Parmesan cheese. And I can tell you that the nut is not set right. So I think the nut has been put in there, a new nut, or the nut was reset. There's a gap here. There's quite a gap there. It's hard to tell if that's just the binding that's the gap, but we're going to investigate that. As I said, he kind of claimed by his own admission that I had it at a, let's just say, a box store guitar tech, and he said he was a younger guy that he wasn't 100% sure if he knew what the guy was talking about, but he did a restring and a setup for him, air quotes, and told him, oh, you may need some fret work at that point. So all I can do is, aside from what I've seen already, is check it. And we're always going to check the same things when we start. Neck relief, body joint, capo at the first fret, 12 thousandths of an inch at the 7th fret, and it is tight, 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 tight. Like there is zero neck relief in this instrument right now. So before I even start looking for high frets or buzzing frets or what have you, I'm going to address adjustments. You know, that's always where I start. I'm not going to go by what somebody else says. I listen to my clients, don't get me wrong, but that gives me a good starting point. We are at just over 4/64 on the bass side and 4/64 on the treble side. Now, a Les Paul of almost any ilk, if it's a good instrument and well built and stable, should be able to handle those adjustments. Not always, but sometimes. I've seen high-end Gibsons that can't handle 4/64 on the bass side. I usually set them at just over 4, so I can see the line, but not quite 5/64, and just over 4/64, just barely seeing the line there. So yeah, that's what I like. Frets are dirty, guitar is dirty. This is all preliminary. All right, stop bar is slammed all the way down to the body, and we have just enough clearance here. The bridge seems like it's really, really, really high, but it's got to come even higher. It's got to come even higher because, yeah, our string height is kind of boogered, but maybe not, because right now I'm going to open up the truss rod, and that will probably facilitate us being able to actually lower the bridge and saddle height, because once we get the correct neck relief in it, we're going to have too much string height, which means we're going to be able to drop that back down. It's actually got a nut on it, but it's not a 5/64. That'd be 7. No, that's a fail. I know what it is, and I have to find the right socket that will actually fit in there. Somebody has really butchered, I mean butchered that nut. There isn't enough cut out for it. I'm going to pause quickly just to see if he has the correct tool in his guitar case, because I don't have the exact one. Stand by. So back on point, I did not have the exact correct wrench for that. It's a longer bolt. I'm going to try to put it up there so you guys can see it. It's a very long bolt with a very shallow route. That's odd. Usually Epiphones have a hex, a 4mm hex that you use an Allen wrench for. And a Gibson, the hex nut will not be that long. It will be much shorter, and it's 5/16. This one, I believe, is 7mm, and none of my 7mm wrenches that look like that will fit in there. So I very gingerly had to use an old standby. Luckily, the truss rod is loose and it functions, and I was able to get just enough adjustment out of it to achieve what I wanted, which is 12 thousandths at the 7th fret. I don't recommend anyone do that. Do as I say, don't do as I do. Don't ever reach in there with needle nose pliers and start doing that. You have to be really, really careful. I didn't do any damage to it. I had to loosen the strings, get them out of the way, and catch just enough to be able to gingerly move it one way or the other. There is a perfect wrench made for that. They're against all, common wisdom and arguments out there on the internet. There is not one wrench that will fit every single one of those. Sorry, doesn't. Sometimes you run into an oddball one like that. I digress. Our string action is now way too high, as I thought, because we just put neck relief into it. 12 thousandths, it was dead flat, bone flat, and now we're exactly where we want to be, but our action is 6/64 and just over 5/64. So, you know what we're doing. We're going to lower our saddle, and I knew that was coming. We want to move our bridge down. And I'm doing this before I do the setup or restring or any of that monkey business on this guitar, because we have complaints and phantom concerns about it needs fret work. So before I do a whole bunch of cleaning up and restringing and a complete setup, I want to investigate that and see why somebody would have said that to this client. By the way, this is a really good client, and he might even become a business partner in my band and become my guitar player. I don't know. If he doesn't pull a crazy Ivan and not learn the material. But anyway. Alright, we tuned back up the pitch. Let's make sure we don't have too much neck relief in it. Yeah, you have to keep checking and keep checking. I like that. I mean, that is so bone perfect. Of course, I did that off camera, but now we know where we're at. So let's see where our string height is. And the reason I'm doing all of this before I continue is to check for fret buzz. Almost 5/64. I can just see the 4/64 line on the treble side. Almost 5/64 on the bass side. I can just see the 4/64 line on the treble side. So where does that lead us? What's the next thing? Well, I'm gonna check for fret buzz. Let's first make certain that, yeah, we don't have strings buzzing off of pickups, which I can tell you just by looking at it that we do. All I'm going to do is lower them, because especially the bridge pickup is literally banging off the strings. You can't, the smallest feeler gauge will not even go under the string. So his phantom fret buzz it might turn out that that's all it is. And I love to hear myself talk. I go on and on and on sometimes, but it's all for a good cause. I want you guys to understand what I'm doing as I'm doing it, because I had some comments that sometimes I move a little too fast and don't explain what I'm doing, specifically measurements and tools and why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's close enough to low enough. So it's basically, this is our feeler gauge for pickup height. You hold the last fret to make sure your pickups are just far enough, but not too far and clearly not too close. It's 1/8 of an inch on the bass side, that little pickup tool right there, and 3/32 on the, where's my black, there we go, 3/32 on the treble side. You hold the last fret and just use your feeler gauge. For those of you that don't know, you follow. Now, this is what we do. Somebody told me I had fret buzz and it was going to need fret work. Let's find out. Definitely hear fret buzz. Is it that it's too low? I don't know. Is the string height too low? Maybe. It could be. I have the bass so that I have a little room to pull up if I need to. Let's see. Let's just pull it up, because I definitely heard some buzzing, some fret buzz on the E string before I even got to the others. And each time you do this, make sure you're at exact pitch so that you know you have the correct tension on the neck. Let's just double check that height. This whole exercise is just to find out if we have buzzing frets. That's as high as I would ever go, 5/64. 5/64 on the bass side. And it's still good on the treble. So if we're going to get buzzy frets here, then we have to move to the next tool. Oh boy. Yep. We got some wobble going down here for sure where the neck is set. Not terrible, but it's there. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you we got some buzzy frets, mostly on the E. And mostly once you get up into this area. That is usually neck wobble at the joint. That's what I call it. That is where the neck is bolted in. You can't see it. It doesn't look nearly as bad as, say, an acoustic guitar. When you sight down and where the neck is jointed to the body on an acoustic guitar, you see a lot of wobble down here, but you never play up there. Well, this is a Les Paul, and that's what that cutout is for, to get up in here and play these notes. Not 100% sure that I would recommend at this juncture a fret leveling, because the term flecking was thrown about by the client. You got a high fret right there. And that's enough. That's enough to cause buzzing. Flecking. Can you do as good a job as a fleck machine? Well, yeah, I don't believe in those machines. I'm going to tell you from the get-go. I think it's a scam. I think the Russians are involved. What am I doing? I'm using a fret rocker, and I'm looking for high frets. And I found one right over here. And it was, sometimes you'll hear a little, and it's not enough to cause buzz. That, when you hear that, that's enough. Oh, that's really, oh yeah. That's enough to cause fret buzz. And that's approaching the area where I was getting some problems on the E and the A. So we have some errant high frets here. I know this is boring to some of you, but this is what it is. I'm doing this because it's 100% absolutely necessary. There we go. That's the one that I heard around the 12th fret on the E. And it's really clacking. Yeah. It's really clacking over here on the treble side, not so much over here. So these frets were causing this on the bass side to you know, make some buzzing there. Yeah, I almost have to agree with the didn't quite know what he was doing technician that this client had his guitar with. There's another one right there on the, you know, we've got errant, staggered fret, high fret. There's another one. Wow. That one's high enough too. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to commit this guitar to, yeah, it's going to get a fret leveling, fret end dressing, although they don't feel terrible the way they are, but I'm going to make them better. Yeah, we're going to do a full fret leveling job on this guitar, and we've done one recently, but this one I'm going to film beginning to end. Today's video was just how do we determine, based on someone said, that it might need some fret work. I'm gonna tell you right now, I've got high frets staggering all over in different positions all over the fretboard. The only way to know for sure that we're going to be okay is to start fresh. And how do we do that? Well, I'm going to pause while I get the strings off, and I'm going to do the first step in that process, which is getting the board completely level. And that's a real trick because I don't have the exact tool that I need to adjust the truss rod to get it exactly straight. But it has to be exactly straight before you start doing that, right? So stand by. Okay, so two things. I did have the right wrench. I have 3 different 7mm, and yeah, it is 7mm, and it's got to be the little shorty guy, and it fits right in there. So we're going to need that when we go to level this. That's the last thing we're going to do today in this video, is get this neck in a completely flat condition to get it ready to do a fret leveling on it. Now, first things first, gotta get this nut out of here, and I'm a little afraid of this because, as I said at the top of this segment, there is all kinds of goopy goo, wrong kind of glue, rubber cement. It makes me wonder who did what under this, but sometimes you just got to go for it. It is coming loose, but it does not want to pull out, which is what rubber cement does. And yeah, as I feared, there's all, oh my God, yeah, somebody used rubber cement on it. It's all over it. So I got a good amount of cleanup to do there. I may or may not reuse this nut. I didn't like the way it was fitting in there, but it's possible that whatever Goonie Goo Goo tech reset this nut at some point, used not only the wrong kind of glue, but probably didn't clean the channel out right. Why do we take that out? Because we have to. If we're going to do a fret leveling, that needs to be gone, because the fret leveling beam will go past that. Of course, all of this will get lowered and taped off. The switch has to be removed and lowered so it's out of the way where I can work down here. I digress. Notched, straight edge. Pretty sure this is the one I want. Why is that? Ah, there we go. I don't know why, but it says short scale guitar. Stumac, what did you do to me? So what do? This is how this operation goes. This goes on there, and it's notched so that it can go over the frets, obviously. For those of you that have never seen this, get it right in the middle of the neck. And it will tell you if you're too straight or in a back bow. And what I usually do, and this is going to glare probably, but I will shine a light on me. That'll give me an idea. And then I saw right there, right in the middle, it's forward bowed, so we need to straighten it. Yeah, right in the middle, it's forward bow. In other words, the relief that I put in it, yeah, it's still there, some of it. And to eyeball it, it looks straight as an arrow, but I can promise you that it's not. So what are we going to do? We're going to tighten it slightly with my newfound old tool. And when I say slightly, do a little bit at a time, and then recheck. That was way too much. Did it grab my feeler gauge on there? Oh no, yeah, it grabbed the feeler gauge. Somehow it was magnetic and it grabbed it. Yeah, there it is. I was like, what the hell's going on there? This is critical, and take your time. Get it as absolutely straight as humanly possible using, this is a 4/64. Still going under. Yeah, it's still going under. So we're trying to straighten the neck up, so we're turning to the right until we get it. You cannot eyeball this. I think that got it. I think one last little turn. It is still just trying to creep under right in this area. And of course, that's where our bow is going to be, either this way or that way. Just a little bit more. This, eventually, it has to become a leap of faith. You have to go, yep, I got it. I like that. That is actually, now when I look at it, it actually looks like it's in a back bow, slightly. But I know it's not, and that's what can be deceiving about how you, what your eye tells you and what is actually happening. And you can tell I'm spending a little bit of time doing this. What was I going to do? One more time. And I want to... The problem with this method is everywhere there's an inlay, the light will reflect and it will look like there's space. There really isn't. I think we went slightly too far. I'm going to back it off slightly. In other words, to bring it back down. I think we're there. And you can't always go off of just the wood, because all this thing is telling me is the wood straight. I'm going to take because this one's acting a little bit funky, and that kind of goes with that we had staggered high frets all up and down in different places. It could be that the frets are actually really boogered. I'm digging on that. I'm digging on that. It looks really straight. Now, sometimes I will, where is my, pardon me for 1 second. I will take an actual straight edge and put it right on the frets thusly. And this will tell me sometimes right there is a low fret. Yeah, there's a low fret there or a high fret on either side. There's a low fret. Yep. Right here where we were getting a lot of buzzing on the low E on the bass side when we started, our feeler gauge is going under there. It starts right around the 10th and 11th fret. Gets really bad at the 12th, and then it straightens back out again. So yeah. It's sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith and go, yeah, I got it as flat and as straight as these tools will tell me, or that tool will tell me. Yeah. And I sometimes will commiserate over this for quite a long time. As you can tell, we've spent some time doing it. I'm going to stop here and call that good enough. But I'm going to let this settle overnight and see if the wood does anything weird, even with no tension on it, because that's where we have to start, with no tension. And this wants to be as flat as possible before I start sanding down frets and taking material off to get them leveled and get those high spots. It was like a toothless grin. It was everywhere. It's Blackjack with 396 guitars. I hope this was helpful. I've done several of these in the last couple of weeks, and I didn't film any of them. We're gonna film this one and show you every step of the way. So there will probably be a couple of installments. I'll show you as much as I can. We'll talk soon. And remember, if you dig what I'm doing, please like and subscribe, and by all means, share.